Hey, this is Andrew Brown. In this video, we're going to take a look at AWS Lambda. And so this is a service that allows you to run functions as code. It is the key thing that allows you to do serverless. And it's pretty easy to use it from here. But what I would like to do is actually programmatically do it because that's the way that you're going to really be using it. So let's make our way over to our AWS examples. And I'm going to go ahead and launch this up in Gitpod. You use whatever environment you want. And this time, we're going to not just use CloudFormation, but we're going to use SAM. So SAM is a subset of CloudFormation. And basically, it allows you to quickly build serverless applications by writing less CloudFormation code. So you can see here, SAM stands for Serverless Application Model. And there are other things that you can utilize to provision stuff, but this is the AWS way, so I want to show you this here. And so, like, if we were to do this in CloudFormation, just type in CFN Lambda, it would look similar, but it could be different. So here, there's a Lambda function, and here's a serverless function, and this could be doing additional things under the hood, so it could be setting up other additional services or things like that. But you'll notice here for our serverless stack, we have stuff for functions. We can make it an application. We can launch API Gateway. We can launch DynamoDB somewhere here. I know we can do a database here. But we have some things that we can implement here, okay? Simple table, I think, is a DynamoDB table. Yeah, there it is. But yeah, let's go ahead and utilize the SAM CLI. So what I would like to do is go down and look at some examples. And so that looks like a very simple example of the SAM CLI. So what we'll do is we'll go over here. I'll make a new folder, and we'll call this Lambda. And I'll make a new folder in here, and this will just be basic. And we'll create a new file here called template. New file, template.yaml. The naming convention might matter. It's been a bit of a spell since I've done some SAM, but I'm sure we can figure it out. So what we'll do is copy this part of the code. Okay, and then we need to get the anatomy of the actual thing. So we need to have this transformation in here, and that's going to tell CloudFormation to actually act as CloudFormation. Okay, this basically set up some macro to transform everything underneath to utilize the new stuff. I still feel like we'd probably have our version in there. So let me just see if I can find some SAM code. I'll be back in just a second. Yeah, so here's a very old repo where I was playing around quite a bit with SAM. And so if we go in here, we should have some examples. And what I was looking for was to see if we needed to have our version at the top. And it looks like we still would have that there. So we'll go ahead and bring that in here. All right. And, if we get stuck, I'll come back and reference this. But for the most part, I think we should be able to figure this out. So the idea is that we have a handler. This is going to determine how we should name the file and the name of the initial function. So that's important. We can choose our runtime and then say how we're delivering that code. So what I'll do is I'll make a new folder in here, and I'm just going to call this function because this is going to contain our code. I guess for now we can use Python. I'm not a huge fan of Python, but we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to just call this function.py for now. And we need a basic Python function. So Python function Lambda example, just to get us started here. AWS. It's important to put the AWS in there because it's not going to know what it is if we don't do that. So the latest version is Python 3.12. And so we'll go over here, and the idea is that it will utilize this runtime. Now, you can actually provide your own containers, and that gives you a lot more flexibility, and that's something that I actually prefer to do. But right now, we'll use the default runtime as that doesn't require that much additional setup. Make note of what the underlying operating system is because that can affect the functionality here. But I'm just looking for that code, so we'll keep going down here and just give me that basic code. So I think it's as simple as this. But normally you'd have a return, so this looks a little bit better to me. So we'll go ahead and grab this here. I'm going to go into our Lambda function and paste this in here. So this one's called Lambda handler. I'm just going to call this handler. Okay. And so we have event, context, and the idea is that this is going to accept a first name and a last name, and it's going to return that as the message. So very simple Lambda. If we were doing something more complex, we might have to include additional files in here, which would be, we'd have to requirements.txt, and we'd have to include the the libraries or binaries along with this package. But since this is very simple, it's not going to be such a big deal. There is a way that we can just provide code as a reference and not necessarily provide the code URI. But let's go take a look here and look at some of the options here. So this is for Lambda. So I'm going to close that one out. And we'll go back over to our serverless function, wherever that code is here. Here it is. I'm going to grab this so I don't have to keep looking for it if I can't find it. And so we'll go here, and what I'm looking for is how we're going to do the code. So here we can just do the code inline. So the Lambda function code is written directly in the template. This property only applies if the package type is set to zip. Okay. And then we have inline code. Yeah. So that might be interesting to do. So if the package type is property zip, then the code URI or inline code is required. And that is the type that we're going to utilize here. So go ahead and do that. Because the idea is that it would then zip up the code locally and then send it over. Obviously, if it's a code URI, then you can provide it in an S3 bucket. There's a limit in terms of how large your code can be, and that at some point that you actually have to upload that to S3 if you want to bring it in. But so that's part one. The next part is inline code. So we can see if we have an example of this. Yeah, okay, so it's exactly in line. So maybe we'll try that first before we actually reference our code. Okay. Inline code. And then we'll go ahead and just grab this function here. And I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to call this inline, rename. Sometimes my code space is messed. Oh, there, renamed it. That's great. So yeah, here we have a very simple example where the code's going to be inline. So Python 3.12, package type zip. Property inline code is not allowed. Are you sure? Because it's right here. And just carefully looking at this here. What's the problem with the handler? Properties, missing type. Oh, you know what it is? We actually have to say like inline lambda. That's our problem here. There we go. Still having issues. Let's go back over to here. Serverless function, yeah. Properties, Let me just stare at this for a second, okay? You know, I'm not really seeing an issue with my code, so I'm going to assume that it's just, oh, look, it just vanished for no reason. All right, whatever. So yeah, we have this simple function. The question is, can we deploy it? So there are a bunch of commands that we can use for SAM specifically. So we can go ahead and type in readme. And by the way, you can use CloudFormation. It just depends on your use case here. I'm not sure why this is mucking up. I'm going to give this a nice reload here. Because there are some SAM CLI commands that will make our life a lot easier here. So I'm just going to go and make that file again, readme.md. So we're going to have to go ahead and install the SAM CLI. So SAM CLI install. So on SAM CLI, Linux. We are on x86, I believe, here today. So download the zip. It's not like the best instructions, but I'm going to go ahead and copy this link address here. So we'll say install SAM CLI. And we can make this an installation script over here. So I can just say new file here, and we'll say AWS SAM CLI install.sh. I'm not going to include it in my Gitpod YAML. We'll just conditionally install it when we need it, but we'll go ahead and get this set up here. So the first thing is we need to actually download this file. So we'll curl that. I think we have an example here. Yeah, and we have like the -o. I think I'll just download in the same place if we do that. We should probably cd into different directory here so that it's less of a problem. And then at the end, we'll cd back into our original workspace. So I'll download that file. And then the next thing we need to do is unzip it. So that looks correct to me. And you know what? I actually think I might change the output of this so it's just simpler. And I'll wrap this in double quotations just to hedge my bets here for any issues. Let's just be like SAM CLI. And then we can go here and we'll just say SAM CLI. So we'll have to unzip this. And then we need to install it. And yeah, I mean, that should be it. So what we'll do is we'll see if our script works here. U plus X bin AWS SAM CLI. And we'll go ahead and run this. So it says signature not found. Either the file is not a zip file or it constitutes one disk of a multi-part archive. So it doesn't like something. If we're having issues here, what we can do is just run this step by step here. So I'm going to just cd back a directory. And I'm going to just do ls-la. And I'm just taking a look at that. Notice that it's 0. So there's clearly something wrong with our curl. I'll go ahead and copy this again. And then just paste this here. It is not copying for some reason today. Copy, clear, right click, paste, enter, ls-la. It is still 0. It should not be 0. So what I'll do is I'll click through on the link here. Okay, it's downloading now. Copy link address. It might be that there's like a redirect or something in here. I'm going to give it a -l or something. See if that fixes our problem. Let's see, ls-la. Now it has data. So I think -l, I forget. I think it's like for forwarding. So curl -l flag. You'd think I'd know, but I forget all the time. So just look at -l. It's not saying what it does. I think it follows redirects. Man curl /-l. Header set with this option will be set in all requests, even after the redirects are followed, like when you tell the location L. So yeah, I think maybe that will fix that issue there. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the SAM CLI file here, and we'll just go back into our main directory here. I'm going to run the script again. There we go. Yep. So there we are. You know, sometimes you just remember things, but you don't know exactly why. So if you type in SAM, we get it. We type in SAM version. I'm going to tell you right now that if you are using an older version of SAM, this thing mucks up quite a bit. So just make sure that you're using the latest. And if you are running issues, like let's say you've been using SAM for a while, just come back and check your version and see if there's an update, because it will throw really weird errors. So yeah, we have the SAM CLI installed, which is great. So I'm going to go back over here, and the idea is that we want to start utilizing it. I'm just going to go and SAM CLI install sh, just put that in there so people know we have a little script here. But there is a bunch of commands that we need to utilize with SAM. So we'll go over here on the left hand side. There's like building, packaging, there's a bunch of commands. And I probably have them over here in this other repo because I've done it so much. And there's a thing called the SAM config toml. So this allows us to set the some of the default parameters that we want to pass over to our stuff. And then there's a bunch of commands like building and stuff like that. So often you'll have to, it depends on what it is, but if you are going to create images, then you'd have to create a repo before you could do that. But one of the commands is going to be build. So I'm actually going to just copy this over here, and we'll make a new folder called bin, and we'll just see how much we can copy of this over here. Build. I'll just cd into Lambda inline, and we'll just chmod ux bin build. I'm just going to close this out and then reopen it. I think it was already highlighting there, but the way this thing works is that it's finding what the root path is. So it's saying relative to where we are, and then we'll specify where our template is, which is right here. And apparently it's .yml. That actually does matter because for some reason, CloudFormation defaults to YML and SAM defaults to YML. And if you don't want to have any problems, I just recommend following that. And then the idea is that we have a path to our function, which we do. Here are the links, so you can see that I did this before, and I put the links here. And so we're trying to build it, whether we want to use a container or not. Today we're not using a container, so I want to just take this out of here. And we'll follow these links and actually take a look at the build reference. Okay, so we have build directory. We have base directory and template directory. So build directory resolves the path for functions of layers of source code. Now we're not worried about that. I mean, this is referencing where the function is, but the thing is that in this case, we're actually doing it inline. So for this example, we don't actually have to specify the function path. It's actually quite useless to do that. So I'm just going to take this out of here. I rarely ever utilize inline code. So I'm just trying to take a guess here. So it's build in source. To build the project, you're building the project directly in the source folder. No, cache, no. So I guess the easiest way to get this to work is just to run it. So we'll go ahead and try this. We'll say SAM build and see what happens. We'll scroll up here. So it looks like it built, and you can see we have this AWS SAM directory. I'm not sure if it's actually ignoring that stuff. I'm just going to give this a refresh, because I don't want to include it. It looks like it is being ignored, so they must have generated out a .getIgnore in here. Maybe they didn't. And so this folder has configuration options in it, so sometimes you have to go here and debug it, but the idea is that you have SAM and then it might translate this over into something else. So notice that it's formatted our stuff here. I'm just saying that it might do some stuff to your code, and this is a easy way to debug it. But it looks like that built no problem. So validate SAM template. Oh, it's telling us what we can do next. Okay, so we can validate it, invoke the function, deploy it, which is probably what we most likely want to do. I can go back over to here. I'm just going to keep grabbing stuff. So linting would be something that's good. That's how we could validate our stuff. So I'm going to go ahead here and just grab this one. We'll say file. And just a reminder, you know, you can just go into this repo here and copy these scripts so you don't have to goof around. Because I'm obviously pulling them from another one. So bin validate. Actually, we called this lint. And this is actually using a tool called cfnlint, which we'd actually have to install. So yeah, we just use brew for this. Just go ahead and do that. We could be using this for CloudFormation the entire time. I just haven't been. And we'll go over to our README. So install cfnlint. While that's installing, let's go take a look at what else we have here. So we have deploy, build, package. Package is something we might want to do. Package, yeah, so it creates the zip, it uploads it to S3, returns a copy of the SAM template. It's usually an intermediate step, but because we have something inline, I'm not sure if we actually need to even do that in this case. I think in this one, all we have to do is do a deploy. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a deploy script here. File, deploy, paste. If you're wondering what this project is, at one point I built out evaluators for like code sandboxes. So if you ever use LeetCode and you're wondering how it executes the code, I did that using Lambda, which was pretty cool. But anyway, so I have this one here, and it's a little bit more complex. I'm going to just pare it down here. But this is going to just be inline Lambda. Lambda Python. Py. I don't want any tags for this. If there is a built package, it would go here, so it would actually place it there. But notice that we do not have a packaged file, so in this case, it would just be template. And we could load in a config file. Right now, there is no need to load in a config file. I guess we should make one. So here, I'm just going to change this so that it's just Python toml. And I'm just going to take this out of here. We don't need that. So yeah, I'm just thinking about it. Now, technically, we could create a SAM config toml file, and that should get loaded automatically, actually. So I have that somewhere here. See the SAM config toml? So if we were to place this in here, it actually would pick up this stuff and pass it along during its deploy, but I'm going to leave that alone for now. Yeah, maybe we just will not bother with a config file unless we really need it. So I'm just going to comment this out for now. Just put that at the bottom. And we'll type in clear here. And let's just see if this will actually work. Bin deploy. Oh, we got chmod first, right? Chmod u plus x bin deploy. We might not even have to specify the template file here, but I'm just doing that anyway. But it seems to be taking no problems here. Usually I have issues with SAM, but like getting started, right? But I guess I've used it enough here that I'm having less of a problem. So here it looks like it's deploying to CloudFormation. So we'll make our way over to CloudFormation. So type in CFN. Okay, so yeah, looks like it's going good. So we'll just wait here for this to finish deploying, okay? All right, so that was pretty darn easy. So let's go over to Lambda and take a look and see how this is going. Yep, we'll go over here. All right, we'll check our inline function. So notice that we can have things that are triggering it, and then there's the destination where things can go. I'm gonna just close up this tutorial stuff. I don't care about it. It's interesting we can export this out to Application Composer. That is new. That's just a way of using a visualizer to create very simple serverless architectures. You'll notice over here we have our code. So notice the file is named index.py and the handle is named handle. This is really important because these have to match for this to work, and they actually don't. So if we don't change this with an R, that's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. And while that is updating, I'm going to go over to our original template here. And I'm just going to make sure that that is named correctly. There we go. It's a good thing we caught that. So yeah, now that is named correctly. It matches our handler. Notice we can choose our architecture, which is really nice. ARM is pretty sweet, but we'll leave it as x86 for now. You can see our version of Python. Layers allows us to bring in packages without having to do any crazy bundling, so that is something that we could be doing. Let's go over to configuration. What we might want to change, I mean, it's fine for this, but it's like memory and things like this, so how much, I don't remember this being a thing you could choose before, but I guess you could change the amount of storage now, but memory and how long it takes to time out, basically. So the longer, or the higher these two values, the more expensive it gets, but for this, it's pretty simple. It should execute like immediately. So if we want to test this function, what we can do is go hit the test over here. And we can create a new event. Now remember, we have some code in here for a first name and last name. So I can go ahead and just type in first name and then last name here. We'll take this part out. We'll say Andrew. And then Brown. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Just say my test. We'll save it. And yeah, I think this is just the only thing that's messed up here. There we go. And so now we can go ahead and perform our test. So this is actually going to trigger the Lambda. Notice that it passes back hello Andrew Brown. And we can also observe this over in our monitoring. So if we go over here to view CloudWatch logs, this is something you'll commonly do when using Lambda, is go over to CloudWatch logs and try to debug it and try to figure out the issue. So I'm going to go over here and give it a moment just to load. Here it is. We'll go down below. We have our log stream. We click into here so we can see stuff. So somewhere in here, that hello world. Well, we actually didn't log in here. So if we actually did a print, like we did something like, print. How we print in print Python? Is it print ln? I always forget. Oh, it's just the print function. So I could just say here, log this for me. And we'll go ahead and redeploy this so we can actually just see that. So, well, first we'll have to build again. So we'll go do a build. And we can check our template to see if it's actually updated. So notice that it does have the print in there now. Excellent. We can try our lint now if we want. So we can say chmod u plus x lint. And we just say, it's got to be .bin lint here. And then we could just lint it. bin lint. You can just tell us if there's anything wrong with our CloudFormation code. Notice there are no errors, so that is very good. We'll go ahead and deploy this, okay? So this will go ahead and trigger deploy. We'll go back over to here. So updates in progress, and we'll just wait, okay? All right, let's take a look at, let's change and deploy. So we'll go back over to here, give this a refresh, and we'll go back over to our code. And you know, Lambdas can be versioned. I don't know if it's actually versioning this right now. I don't think so. If we go look, yeah, I don't think we have versioning enabled, but that's something that usually it's up here, right? So if I saw, yeah, like create an alias, publish a version. So we're not doing versions right now, which is totally fine. I'm gonna go back over to our test and try this again. And so we have hello Andrew Brown, which is fine. Well, what we're looking for was to see if we could get our logs to show up, our print statement, if you will. And there's a way to make them even nicer, which is what you can do is you can format it as JSON, and it should parse it as JSON. So here it says log this for me. And you know, sometimes I like to have it as a JSON structure. So I know for Ruby and JavaScript it's really easy. I'm not 100% sure how that would work for Python, but I just want to point out that, you know, JSON objects are print a lot nicer when you're trying to debug stuff. But anyway, I think that's sufficient for our first go at Lambda. So we're going to go ahead and tear this down. Okay. And you might be wondering, like, how would you intermix SAM stacks with CloudFormation? Well, you just have these as separate scripts alongside your CloudFormation ones. And of course, we could write Lambdas as CloudFormation. I just don't think it's worth it. Or if you really want to do a lot of intermixing of stuff, then you could use something like Terraform. There's a framework called serverless.tf that makes it really easy to write serverless infrastructure, or CDK, of course. But yeah, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.